Most Americans walk past trees and shrubs every single day without realizing they're brushing shoulders with history's best-kept survival secrets. Long before canned goods and supermarkets, native tribes relied on wild fruits that modern people barely know exist. These weren't just snacks, they were lifelines. Let's start with one that might be hiding in a patch of woods not far from your backyard. The pawpaw looks ordinary, almost boring, when it hangs green and stiff on the branch. But wait too long, and in a blink it melts into brown mush. Hit it at the exact right moment, though, and you're holding creamy, tropical custard straight out of nature's kitchen. Early settlers mocked it, calling it the poor man's banana. But Native Americans knew better. They mashed ripe pawpaws into dense, portable cakes that lasted through winters so brutal they made the modern polar vortex look like a chilly breeze. Packed with vitamin C and potassium, these cakes weren't luxury food. They were survival medicine disguised as dessert. Here's the irony. Pawpaw trees still thrive in 26 states, more than apples ever managed. Yet you won't find them stacked in neat rows at your local grocery store. Why? Because pawpaw flesh is so fragile it bruises if you even think about dropping it. Ship it across the country and you end up with a box of expensive baby food. That's why pawpaws remain a forager's secret treasure. Taste one and you'll get banana, mango, vanilla custard, maybe even a memory of a summer you never had. Try explaining that flavor to someone and you'll sound like you're making it up. Now let's switch gears to a berry that didn't charm people with sweetness, but still became a survival staple, the chokeberry. Bite into one raw and you'll immediately wonder if your mouth has been lined with sandpaper. The tannins are so strong, they practically erase your saliva. But tribes didn't spit them out in disgust, they saw potential. By mixing chokeberries with dried meat and fat, they created pemmican, the original protein bar. Light, compact, and able to last months without spoiling. Forget energy gels and trail mix. This was the true endurance fuel. And here's the kicker. Chokeberries have antioxidant levels that make blueberries look like weaklings. They weren't just food, they were medicine tucked into every bite. Cook them, and the transformation is astonishing. Harsh bitterness softens into a deep, wine-like sweetness. Indigenous cooks simmered them into sauces, dried them for storage, or blended them into stews to stretch nutrition through the long winters. Modern science is only now catching up, proving that chokeberries can lower blood pressure and fight inflammation. Meanwhile, health stores sell overpriced supplements while the real thing grows wild in swamps and wetlands from Canada to the Midwest. But if chokeberries were tough, their Arctic cousin was legendary. Meet the cloudberry, also known as northern gold. Imagine living in a land where the ground stays frozen half the year, where crops laugh at you and die. Yet somehow, these golden orange gems thrive in bogs, so harsh most plants wouldn't bother. Each plant produces just one berry, one, like nature wanted to make them precious on purpose. Taste them and you'll get apricot, citrus, and sunshine all rolled into one bite. For indigenous Arctic peoples, cloudberries were more than food. They were survival insurance. Loaded with vitamin C, they kept scurvy at bay when fresh greens were just a dream. They're still rare today, so rare that when you find a patch, locals guard the location like it's buried treasure. And honestly, can you blame them? These berries cost more per pound than a steak dinner when they make it to market. But out in the bogs of Alaska and northern Canada, they're simply part of life. From lush forests to frozen tundra, these fruits weren't accidents. They were the difference between starving and thriving. And as we peel back these forgotten stories, we see a pattern. Every landscape, no matter how harsh, hid a fruit perfectly adapted to feed people when everything else failed. But pawpaws, chokeberries, and cloudberries are just the beginning. What happens when we move into the heartland, where orange globes turn bitter enemies into sweet allies? Head south into the woodlands, and you'll meet a fruit that played a dangerous trick on anyone impatient enough to bite too early: the persimmon. Unripe, it's a cruel joke. Take a bite, and your mouth puckers so hard it feels like you swallowed chalk mixed with vinegar. Your saliva vanishes, leaving you questioning every decision that led you to that tree. But wait until it ripens, when the skin softens to the point where it looks almost spoiled, and you've got nature's candy. The flesh turns silky, almost custard-like, with a honeyed sweetness that can make you forget the torture of an unripe bite. Native tribes mastered the timing game. They harvested persimmons only when they practically fell into their hands, then baked, dried, or mashed them into puddings that lasted through long winters. Nutritionally, persimmons were no joke, packed with beta-carotene for eyesight, vitamin C for immunity, and natural sugars for energy that didn't crash like refined sweets. These orange globes became both dessert and survival rations. And today, you can still find wild persimmon trees dotting farmsteads, creek beds, and forgotten backyards across the Midwest and South. Quiet survivors hiding in plain sight. Enjoying these forgotten survival secrets? Tap subscribe and drop a like. It helps keep the stories coming. Now, imagine the opposite landscape. A desert where the sun burns, rain forgets to visit, and the soil laughs at most plants. In that wasteland, the banana yucca stood tall, spiky, and unbothered. At first glance, it looks like a bundle of swords stabbing the ground. Hardly the kind of plant you'd think of as dessert. But those sword-bearing stalks produced pods that looked like stubby green bananas. Raw, the fruit was as tough and fibrous as chewing on a boot. But roasted or boiled, suddenly, it transformed into something jammy, sweet, and surprisingly satisfying. Southwestern tribes turned banana yucca into reliable food when everything else was withering in the heat. And it wasn't just about the fruit. The flowers roasted like vegetables. The roots mashed into soap for washing. The sharp leaves? Perfect for weaving baskets and making rope. Talk about a plant that did it all. In a landscape where survival options were limited, banana yucca was the desert's version of a Swiss Army knife. Useful, durable, and unexpectedly generous. Shift again, this time to America's windswept coastline, where salty spray and constant storms destroy most vegetation. There, in the dunes from Maine to Virginia, another fruit clung to life, the beach plum. These scrappy shrubs thrived in conditions that would kill orchard-grown plums in a heartbeat. They actually preferred the punishment, growing bigger and producing more fruit when rooted in nothing but sand and blasted by ocean winds. For indigenous tribes, beach plums were more than just edible. They made tangy sauces, preserves that kept through winter, and even purple dye for clothing and crafts. Fresh off the bush, the fruits were tart, almost aggressively so, but cooking transformed them. Heat concentrated their natural sugars, turning them into sweet jellies and syrups that flavored otherwise bland survival diets. Even today, small coastal communities keep the tradition alive with beach plum festivals, where locals gather to make jelly the way their grandparents did. It's not just about food, it's about heritage. These little berries are proof that sometimes the harshest environments produce the toughest, most resilient treasures. From persimmons sweet enough to trick the senses, to yucca pods that fed desert families, to plums clinging to sandy shores, each fruit tells the same story. Survival wasn't random luck. It was strategy, knowledge, and a deep respect for the land's hidden gifts. But the journey isn't over yet, because on the opposite coast, deep in the rainy forests of the Pacific Northwest, another berry was waiting. One that wasn't even a grape, but carried secrets tribes have been using for centuries. Travel west to the forests of Oregon and Washington, and you'll stumble on a plant that confuses just about everyone. The Oregon grape. Spoiler alert, it's not a grape. Not even close. These sharp, blue-purple berries grow on spiky, evergreen shrubs that look more like holly than anything you'd find in a vineyard. But native tribes weren't fooled by appearances. They knew these sour little powerhouses had a purpose. Packed with vitamin C, Oregon grapeberries were turned into drinks and medicines that helped families thrive in the rainy, sun-starved Northwest. And here's the fascinating part. Modern science has confirmed that Oregon grape contains berberine, a compound known today for boosting gut health. Tribes were essentially brewing natural probiotics centuries before anyone invented the word. The taste raw? Let's be honest, it's a challenge. Imagine the sourest blueberry you've ever eaten. Then crank the dial up twice as high. But cook them into syrups or jams, add a little honey, and suddenly that biting tartness transforms into something complex and wine-like. It's proof that sometimes the best flavors come from working with a plant instead of fighting against it. Now head south to the swamps of Louisiana and East Texas, where survival meant wading through knee-deep, mosquito-infested water in search of floating treasure. Meet the mayhaw. Unlike most fruits that stay politely on branches, mayhaws drop straight into the floodwaters every spring, bobbing like tiny red life preservers. It's weird, but brilliant. Floating away helps spread seeds downstream. For the tribes who knew where to look, these fruits were like free gifts delivered by the swamp itself. Small, crimson, and packed with more vitamin C than oranges, mayhaws were turned into preserves that lasted months. Their flavor? Think tart apple crossed with cranberry, with just enough sweetness to keep you coming back. Today, old-timers in the South still make mayhaw jelly, swearing it's a taste you can't replicate with store-bought fruit. And they're probably right. These trees endure floods, droughts, even hurricanes, bending but never breaking. Survivors feeding survivors. But survival food wasn't always bold and tart. Sometimes it came disguised, hiding in papery lanterns swaying gently in the breeze. Enter the ground cherry. These golden gems wrap themselves in a husk, so delicate they look like tiny ornaments. Native tribes treated them like candy, popping them fresh or baking them into breads and puddings. The flavor is a tropical surprise: pineapple, vanilla, even a hint of mango, as if the fruit couldn't decide what it wanted to be, so it chose all of the above. The husks aren't just pretty. They protect the fruit, letting ground cherries last longer than most berries. Plant one, and they'll spread like wildfire, rewarding you year after year with dozens of sweet little treasures. For indigenous families, that meant reliable food with almost no effort, a dream scenario in survival terms. And even today, gardeners are rediscovering them, crafting jams and preserves that taste like nothing else on supermarket shelves. Enjoying these forgotten survival secrets? Tap subscribe and drop a like. It helps keep the stories coming. Finally, we circle back to something more familiar, yet just as overlooked: the American plum. These scraggly shrubs love to form dense thickets on forest edges and abandoned lots. They don't look impressive, but their fruit tells another story. Smaller than grocery store plums, about the size of a cherry, but bursting with concentrated flavor. Tart at first, then sweet enough to balance perfectly. Tribes dried them into leathery strips, stored them for winter, and folded them into pemmican for long journeys. But here's the part most people miss. American plum thickets weren't just for humans. They became ecosystems in themselves. Bees feasted on blossoms, birds nested in thorny branches, deer browsed the leaves. One patch of plums could feed dozens of species, year after year. And because the trees send up shoots from their roots, they essentially created self-sustaining orchards without any pruning, fertilizing, or care. Knock them down, burn them, flood them, they just come back stronger. For modern foragers, that's a gold mine. For ancient tribes, it was a guarantee. Food, medicine, and resilience, season after season. From pawpaws melting like custard, to chokeberries turned into energy bars, to swamp mayhaws and desert yuccas. These fruits remind us of something powerful. Survival wasn't just about hunting or fire-making. It was about noticing the overlooked, turning hardship into opportunity, and respecting what the land offered, even when it came wrapped in bitterness, tartness, or thorns. These forgotten fruits weren't just calories. They were history's insurance policy, nature's way of saying, if you pay attention, you'll always have enough.